Hello everybody, we just want to say a big thank you for watching our show.
And if you'd like to subscribe to our channel where you can find all our programs and other recordings we do, you can subscribe to our channel. And if you want to find out more about our live seminars that happen every Saturday, click here. Enjoy the program.
Bye. Hello and welcome to today's Love Talk with me, Helena.
And with me, James. Today we're talking about how you deal with a bossy partner. Let's find out what's coming up on today's show.
Coming up on today's show, we'll be answering some of your most intriguing questions all about dating on this week's Dear Love Talk. So make sure you keep those questions coming in. And on this week's 1 Minute Bulletin, we're putting the spotlight on lottery winners Adrian and Gillian Bayford, who in 2012 won a whopping £148 million. Find out more of their story later on, and we'll also have a quick roundup of this week's hot celeb news. Now, back to our debatable topic. Today we have the real-life story of Dave Phillips, and he'll be sharing his experience about his relationship with his former partner, who used to apparently mentally control him. Do not miss this. We'll also be speaking to Relate counsellor Arabella Russell, who will be giving us her top tips on how to deal with a bossy partner. And listen up, this one's for you ladies and future brides out there. We'll be giving some awesome bridal hair tips on today's show. Plus, our fantastic love show regulars, including this week's Trip for Two, where our very own Eric and Priscilla will be checking out some Italian cuisine. So, let's get started. Back to our lovely presenters, James and Helena, for this week's Dear Love Talk.
Hello, welcome to the part of the program where you can get in touch with us, send us your questions, and we'll answer them here on Dear Love Talk. You can send us your questions to questions@lovetalkshow.tv. Now, the first question comes from someone who got in touch via Facebook, and she's saying, I dated a guy for 8 months and our relationship just ended. He wanted to be with me for 3 years and I didn't. Then when I finally changed my mind, we dated, and 8 months later he just broke up with me. What do I do? Well, so he wanted to be with you for 3 years, you didn't, then when you changed your mind, you dated 8 months later, he left. You know, the thing that some people fail to understand about dating is that if you dated someone and it didn't work, it's not a catastrophe. It's not the end of the world, because that's what the period of dating is for you to find out if the person's for you or not. So if he dated you for 8 months and he realized that even though he fought for you for 3 years, it didn't work, then it didn't work.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's just a case of you having to move on, as tough as that may sound.
It's true, and we often hear people say, oh, but I thought it was meant to be because we loved each other so much. But the truth really is that if, like my husband just said, dating is a period of time where you get to see if you take the goods home, like my husband usually says.
I don't remember saying that.
Oh yes,
okay.
he uses all these expressions. It's true. If the person is not what you think the person is, you will eventually find out. And you guys broke up, so just move forward and be happy. Really.
And of course, if you are to take one lesson from this, maybe it's see where perhaps the signs were. And maybe he broke up because he saw something was not right, but you didn't see that. So, make a list of perhaps things you saw that weren't right in the relationship, but you didn't want to acknowledge them. Perhaps you didn't want to accept the fact that this relationship wouldn't work. Because people don't like that. People don't like to say, I dated someone and it didn't work. It's like a failure in their belt, right? It's like it didn't work. But that's not a bad thing necessarily. You just found out that you tried, things didn't work out, and you can now move on.
Yeah, that's life. I mean, that's life.
That's right.
And you know.
So, next question.
Question number 2. it's also from Facebook, and it says, I dated a guy, and again, I dated a guy for 3 months, and then 3 months later he tells me he's not ready for commitment. I still feel he's the one, but I'm not sure what to do. Well, if he's not ready for commitment, what can you do? Not much, and that may sound a bit like pessimist, but it's not. Because let's say that the person will agree to stay with you a little longer, or until, I don't know. Do you really want to be with someone who is really not interested in being a committed relationship? I mean, maybe it's going to make you feel good at first because, oh, you know, I convinced him to fight for us and all that, but his heart is not there, his mind is not there, and he doesn't even understand yet what a committed relationship is, which is one that will bring true happiness to you. Because if he has a problem with commitment, and please correct me if I'm wrong, chances are that he will find it hard to keep faithful, to be faithful to you, and he will not value the whole relationship and everything that is involved, if that makes sense.
And I think something important to mention as well is that you said at the end that you feel he's the one for you, but you don't know what to do. Well, I have to disagree with you, because if he's not ready for commitment, clearly he's not the one for you.
And both need to feel that they are.
And if you say, look, I'm ready to commit, I'm ready to be with someone, to build a family, but then the person you like is not, then clearly he's not the person for you. Let me tell you something else. Even if he was to come back to you tomorrow and say, actually, I've changed my mind and I want to be with you, even then you need to take a step back and say, hold on, what made you change your mind? Because if someone says, I'm not ready to commit, then they have issues.
Yeah.
They have issues they haven't dealt with. And just because they come back and say, I've changed my mind, it doesn't mean that those issues have been dealt with. And you have to be strong enough that no matter emotionally speaking how much you want this person back, just because he came back, it doesn't mean he's dealt with the issues he had. And perhaps until he does, he is not the person for you. So for now, perhaps the best thing to do is to put this relationship in the back burner and, you know, try to move forward, because as it stands, this relationship couldn't work.
And you know, the problem with fear of commitment or issues around commitment, this is a very deeply rooted problem in relationships. This is something that we hear a lot, people complaining a lot about this, and it's not something you solve quickly just because you changed your style or something about you, or he's going to like me more. This is something that he really needs to take some time and deal with that issue. It's not a good idea to get involved with someone who has a problem with commitment.
That's right. Now, final question comes from Carla Saints, and she says, hi guys, I am 18 years old and I like a boy who doesn't like me. There is another boy who says he has liked me and wants to date me, but I don't like his drinking habit and going around with different girls. I have never dated and feel a little left out. Should I pursue the boy I like but doesn't care about me, or the other one?
Right.
The truth is that you shouldn't pursue either. Because, look, first of all, Carla, you're 18. Okay, the fact that you haven't dated yet, it's not the end of the world. Perhaps the fact that you haven't dated makes you wiser than all your friends who've been dating around. Now, if you have one guy that you like and he doesn't like you back, and another one who really likes you, but he drinks and he goes around with other women or other girls, I think right now it's safe to say that perhaps none of them are right for you, you know, and maybe the best thing to do is don't get anxious, don't feel like you have to date just because everybody else is dating, and enjoy your life. You're 18, you're probably studying, enjoy your studies, enjoy what life has to offer. You have so many things ahead of you, and you have plenty of time to date, so don't stress over this.
Perhaps let me show her a different picture, okay? Apart from what my husband just said. Imagine that you get together with the one who doesn't like you. Sooner or later he's going to leave you because he never liked you. And then you're going to be left heartbroken. That's scenario one. The next one would be, if you get involved with someone who drinks, chances are that
and he's a womanizer.
Yeah, oh, that one, please, don't even go there. So then chances are that you might end up becoming, you know, a heavy drinker yourself and destroying all your future. because you want so much to fit in, because I can see that you have that problem, and you're going to probably be cheated on. So which one is the best?
Yeah.
None. So I think it's necessary that we kind of illustrate a little bit for you to have an idea.
Yeah. And
relationships, it's a very serious thing. You don't want to just go into one just because everyone is doing it.
And there was something you said, Freedom. You said that if you get together with a boy that doesn't like you, you'll get your heart broken. And let's just say that people do change. I mean, we have a lot of people who attend our seminars that are now married or dating someone and they're very happy. But that person that they're dating or married to didn't initially like them. So people do change. Mm-hmm. But I think, Elena, what she said is very, very important, very valid. Don't try to force things. Mm-hmm. And here's the great thing. I'm going to give you some great news. I think something that you haven't yet understood. You have time on your side. You're really young. You're 18. You know, you have time to make wise decisions, good decisions. So take your time. Mm-hmm. You know, take your foot off the gas. No pressure. When you do meet someone who will match your goals and targets and plans that you have, things will work and it will be a natural process. So don't feel pressured to move into a relationship just because everybody else is doing it.
Yeah, and perhaps what you said might happen, that he might start liking you, the first one, because you love yourself a lot more than you do now. And because you're going to be like, you know what, you're going to have a different attitude. You know what, I'm going to wait because I have a great value. Maybe that will be very attractive. That's it.
We hope that answering these questions has been helpful to you who maybe are in a similar situation. And don't forget that if you want to get in touch, send us your question to questions@lovetalkshow.tv or via our Facebook page. Very interesting. And today it seems like we had a theme going across all those questions to do with dating.
Indeed.
Keep your questions coming through.
Yeah.
Now, let's head over to our brand new Love Talk correspondent, Jenny Cortez Ibanez, with today's news bulletin.
Thanks, James and Helena. On this week's One Minute Bulletin, we're putting the spotlight on lottery winners Adrian and Gillian Bayford. Now, this former couple from Haverhill, Suffolk, had bagged themselves a whopping £148 million back in August 2012, which happened to be Britain's second biggest ever lottery prize with their Euro Millions jackpot. Now, mum of two, Gillian back then said, "We have lived within our means and have been comfortable, but we have been like ships in the night to earn the income we needed. It will be fantastic to spend more time as a family now. This money has come at the right time for us and is going to benefit the whole family." However, sadly, just 15 months after the huge win, the couple separated in 2013 and said that their marriage had broken down irretrievably. And recently it was reported that Adrian Bayford, who split from his wife, will marry a stable girl who is 16 years his junior after just 6 weeks of meeting, friends said. Now, the lack of money can cause marital problems, but so can a lot of it when there is no structure to know just how to deal with it. James and Helena, what are your thoughts? Back to you guys.
Thanks for that, Jenny. Now, I think the problem is that people need to understand that money changes people, especially when it's this huge amount of money that you never had to manage before, and all of a sudden you now have these millions in the bank and you don't know what to do with so much money. It can be really difficult to know how to manage a relationship and having all that money around.
Yeah, I agree. You know, it's tricky. But then again, you get to know who the person really is when money comes.
That's right.
And
perhaps the right way to deal with, you know, progressing financially is to do it gradually, and you learn to manage that together as you progress. Okay? Now, don't go anywhere, because after the break, we'll be getting to meet our special guest for today, Dave Phillips, who, let's just say that he had a bit of an extreme experience when it comes to having a bossy partner in a relationship. Don't go anywhere.
hello, we really hope that you are enjoying today's program.
And of course, if you find this program helpful, don't forget to share it with your friends and also like our video. Bye-bye.
Welcome back to today's show, where we are talking about how to deal with a bossy partner.
Now, usually in every relationship, there's always one who's a little bossier than the other. This is not a dead given, but it's certainly true in most relationships.
Since this is a reality most of us will have to deal with, we will be telling you today what is the best way to deal with this.
But first, let's head over to Jenny again with today's hot celeb news.
Hello, you lovely lot, and welcome to this week's Hot Celeb News. The Equalizer young actress Chloe Grace Moretz has finally confirmed her relationship with our very own Brooklyn Beckham. The 19-year-old recently admitted they were officially together on the American chat show Watch What Happens Live, stating, "I think the more I don't make it mysterious, the more people don't care. So yes, we're in a relationship." Now this to many comes as no surprise, as they have both been posting some lovey-dovey Instagram posts of each other. Ah, how sweet to be in love at that age. Moving on to some not so great news. Has Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne called it quits? There has been reports that the Black Sabbath singer has had a full-blown affair with a hairstylist, and well, Sharon has had enough. And this was what the former X Factor judge had to say about the matter on her talk show. "I'm 63 years of age and I can't keep living like this. He's given me an unbelievable life and he's given me 3 gorgeous children and I love him." She explained, "I don't know where I'm going, who I'm going with, and I just need time to sit and really think about myself and what do I really want for my life." And finally, she went on to admit she was still in contact with her husband, saying, "We're talking, I spoke to him last night. I'm not with him, but I speak to him for sure." Well, I'm glad you're thinking about yourself, Sharon. Good on you. And that's all we have time for. Join me again next week for more hot celeb news.
Thank you very much, Jenny, for the hot celebrity news. Now, although we're talking about how you deal with a bossy partner, and that is very common in relationships. It happens almost in every relationship. We have someone here today who's going to talk about this to an extreme, right? What you're going to hear about today may not be everybody's case. It's probably the fewer cases. But yet, if you are in this situation, perhaps what our guest Dave Phillips will be talking about can help you if you are in that situation. Dave, welcome to the program.
Thank you for coming,
James.
I really appreciate it.
Now, Dave, you were in a relationship where your partner was bossy, but to a very extreme, right?
Yes.
Tell us about that relationship. How did it start, and when did you notice there was a problem with being bossy, but to a very huge extreme?
The relationship started, as I say, 5 years ago, and for the first sort of 2 to 2.5 years, it was a great relationship. We did lots of things together, spent a lot of time in mutual interests with making mutual friends. But the problem really started once we found a routine where I would be going out to do gigs, concerts, and being sort of someone who's, I receive a fair bit of adulation from people who respect my
So you're a
music.
musician and all that.
Right, and then the problem becomes when the jealousy rears its head, and being seen on social media in photographs with lots of other beautiful people, smiling, happy, lots of hugs in photographs. And I think, 2.5 years into the relationship, there started to be this repetitive problem that, that recurred on a regular basis.
What were the first few signs you saw that there was a problem?
Yeah. Because in the beginning all was well, right?
I think where the first few signs come is where you realise that you're being spied on, i.e., you're being monitored through your activity on social media, and then that goes further to the point where you can't put your phone down and leave it without it being picked up by the partner and checking through who's he been talking to, that sort of.
Okay.
Did she have any reason to doubt your faithfulness?
No, not at all.
You always gave your best to this relationship, but this person didn't really trust you, and he went overboard, right?
That's right, exactly, yes.
What was the worst point of this person, like trying to, perhaps taking over your life? I don't know if that's the right term, but what was the worst point of the relationship?
I think it's when you experience the partner telling you what your life is about and what you've been doing. So like predicting or, you know, trying to preempt your story.
Right.
Okay.
So where they're actually saying to you, you know, you've been doing this and you've been doing that, and I've interpreted this from your activity through this, and putting together evidence that isn't actually based on my experience.
So
or the truth.
Yeah, so full of accusations, assumptions, and you know, mistrust basically.
Was there ever any abuse from her towards you?
Yes, yeah, very much so.
Would you mind talking about that?
No, not at all. There came a regular event when I was going to do a concert or, you know, a gig. It became a habit of hers to get really upset about something really small that we shouldn't be upset about, because we've got a really great event that we're going to. You know, she always, when we got to the event, she was always at the front of the stage, loving everything about her man and showing it quite demonstrably in front of all the people that were in that gathering. But in the time before that, there would always be some need.
You were alone, isn't it?
When we were alone and on the way there would be some need to build up this kind of stress situation where sometimes I felt so awful that I had to go and do a show, carrying all this bad vibe that had just been caused, which to me seemed because there's a kind of, like, I'm nervous before I go to do a gig, as I was explaining to you, Helena. And but with my partner, it was this anger that I would be the centre of attention for the night.
Wow.
Can you see that?
So much more pressure.
Yeah, exactly.
Would she shout at you? Or was she the kind that was very soft voiced but manipulative? What kind?
No.
Sorry about the question, because some people might be watching us and thinking,
you know, as you know, every relationship's different, you know, and so for anyone who's in a kind of dynamic that they recognise like this, yes, I took verbal abuse. It became more and more regular that there was this kind of idea that there was another person in my life that I could go to. So she'd say to me stuff like, why don't you go and be with her instead of me? Because obviously you want to. This kind of, and to me that became this sort of manipulative, coercive, controlling thing that went on.
And there was no her.
No.
they were just fans who loved his music.
Exactly. And when I respond to fan mail, like I get emails or social media comments from people about how much they love my music, like
Which
that.
is important for your career.
Well, of course, you know, and as a professional, I like to accept it humbly. And quite often I'll put a love heart at the end of a message or some kisses, you know. I really appreciate your appreciation of what I do as an artist. But that would always be misinterpreted as, you know, there's something else going on in the background here that I suspect.
Let me ask you, I think it's important for us to talk about two things now before we finish. How long did the relationship go for during that abusive period? You said you had 2.5 years where things were great, and then from then on things went downhill. How many years did you have of abuse?
Well, it was 2 years, and now it's 6 months since the relationship has been...
Right. So 2 years of abuse and that person not being bossy but being controlling.
Yeah.
Now, in hindsight, looking back, would you have wished that relationship ended sooner? Did you end the relationship or did she end the relationship? And did you wish now that you wouldn't have stayed in that situation that long?
Obviously it's an impossible wish, but no, I really didn't ever wish that it would end sooner.
Right.
In my heart, I've always felt that if you engage in a relationship, you should be as endurant as you possibly can in every possible facet.
And try everything you can to
try
make it
everything
work.
you can to you know, we can do this, because obviously when you get into a relationship, you commit yourself. You say to people, you know, I love you and I care about you and I want us to spend the rest of our lives together, which was always my philosophy. So whatever illness there was that we had to endure, we would endure it together.
So your mentality was that, you know, this person has these traits, but I love her and I want to make this work, and you try to do that as much as you could, and that's what made you stick in that relationship during that time.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So, if you don't mind me asking, how did it end? Did you just say, you know, enough is enough, or let's just go our separate ways? Because it is damaging to one's health.
No, you know, our relationship actually ended in a very messy, you know, violent situation, which, you know, we both regret deeply.
Right.
Okay.
So, you know.
What matters is that it's over, and you're moving on now.
Yeah.
And I think the final thing that is important for us to talk about is if you were to give an advice to someone now, because, you know, we're talking about this program today about being bossy in a sense where every relationship has one person that's a little bit more bossy and so on. But if there is someone who's in that extreme as you were, and the person can see, look, I've tried to make this work and it hasn't worked, I don't want this to end in a messy way. What is your advice to someone who's in that situation, perhaps has seen that it doesn't work and they don't know how to move forward?
That is, you know, that makes me, that's probably my most nervous moment in this
Don't
interview.
be nervous, Dave.
No, that's like the billion-dollar question, isn't
Right.
it? You know, what is the advice that you give someone? I because of what I've just explained about, you know, me feeling my commitment to a relationship, I would say my advice to you is to keep trying as hard as you can to see the positive in all the blessings that you have around you. Like mindfulness is a good way to work on a relationship. Try to be as endurant as you can, but also try to respect space for each other, with each other, and then possibly you'll answer those kind of problems that you're having.
Right.
And otherwise, the only other thing is actually to look for early signs and bail. I mean, I know that sounds ruthless, but
no, it's true. Before it affects you.
yeah.
But I think that's the whole point. If it gets to a point where it is affecting your mental state, your well-being, and your safety, then there has to be a cutting off point.
An emergency exit.
Exactly.
And you have, I think we all have a right to that. If we actually think about it, we do.
That's right.
Yeah, of course
Dave,
we do.
thank you so much for being on the
Thank
program.
you.
James, thank you.
It's been wonderful to hear you share your story. I know it
Indeed.
takes a lot of courage. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
indeed.
Now,
All
don't
the
go
best.
anywhere because we will continue right after the break. Here's what's coming up in just a few moments.
Yes, make sure you stay tuned as we'll be roaming around the streets of London to find out what the public have to say about this topic. Plus, we'll be speaking to Relate counsellor Arabella Russell to tell us what her top tips are when dealing with a bossy partner. See you in just a second, only here on Love Talk.
We really hope that you are enjoying today's program. And if you are looking for some sincere, down-to-earth advice, all you need to do is to write to us on questions@lovetalkshow.tv.
Or you can send us a message on Facebook, which we will reply to personally. Get in touch.
Welcome back. We're talking about bossy partners.
And you know, it takes a lot of courage for someone like David to do what he did, to come here and share his story. And we know that perhaps it's a minority in terms of men who are in that situation.
But it's a reality.
Or women, but it's a reality. And if you are in that situation, if you have noticed that it has started to damage you as a person, whether mentally or emotionally or physically, then perhaps it's time to bail.
It's
like you said.
it's like it may start like looking like bossy, being bossy. Oh, my partner is a bit bossy. Oh, that's cute. But then if it escalates to other things like being abusive and all that, then you should deal with that very soon. Yeah.
But as we said, we know that this is a minority in relationships, and today we're talking about being bossy in general. But first of all, let's see what people in London have to say about today's topic.
Hi Jimmy, are you in a relationship right now?
I am, yes, I'm married.
Great, and how long for?
It's coming up to 10 years actually next year.
Congratulations. Okay, so who wears the pants in the relationship?
I'd have to say my wife probably does, if I'm honest.
And care to elaborate?
When it comes to decision making, I'm pretty indecisive, and she needs to steer me in the right direction. So and she's probably more, what should we say, mature than I am when it comes to doing the right thing. So yeah.
Sarah, how do you feel about bossy people?
I wouldn't like to be bossed around, but I wouldn't mind being the bossy one.
Would you say your partner is the boss? Where's the pants in the relationship?
I think that we have a pretty balanced relationship where we both can take, part and discuss what we want to do. So, yeah, we all both have an opinion on what we do and a decision on it, and when we take a decision on it. So, I think it's hard to say who's the boss, but yeah, I think that we share that role, both of us basically. Yeah. So I am sometimes, and she sometimes.
I was gonna say, would she say the same? Would she say that you're the boss?
I guess you'd have to ask her. I think she probably would say that she's the boss.
Could you be in a relationship with someone who always makes the decisions?
No, that's not even. That's not fair. There has to be some sort of equality in there.
Who wears the pants in the relationship? Who's the bossy one?
I think she's the bossy one, yeah.
Do you like that?
To some extent, yes. Not all the time.
How would you say she's the boss in the relationship? Why do you say that?
Because she likes to be the decision maker all the time. So once the ideas that... she wants the ideas that needs to be completed, so she's the bossy one, yeah. I can see that.
Do you agree with that?
To some extent. Yeah, it's true that I think I'm the bossy one, but in some subject he is the bossy one as well. So I think we're a bit flexible when it comes to that subject. But in each decision that we make, I agree that he also agrees with me at the end. I'm not so sure that he is, realistic when he says I agree, but at the end, yes, we go along with that. And yeah, I must say I'm 55% to 45%, so yeah.
How would you deal with a bossy partner, hypothetically speaking? For example, you fell in love and that was him, but he was bossy. What would you do?
We'd have to find a compromise all the time. It's probably the only way. Or maybe just tell them that you feel like they're being that way and you don't really like it.
Say, for example, hypothetically speaking, she is the bossy one in the relationship. Would that be a problem to you?
Well, it depends on what problem, how you define problem, right? But if it's for the better for both of us, why not? Yeah.
And for those out there who might not be so okay with it, what's your advice for them?
Oh, that's a difficult question. I think you've got to go with it. It is what it is. You can't force these things. Quite hard to have two dominant forces in a relationship. So if one is clearly more dominant, then not more dominant, but you know what I mean, as in better at making those decisions, then go with it. I don't think there's any big deal in that. It's all fine.
Is it just better to go along with the wife?
I think so. Yes.
So who wears the pants in our relationship?
Well, at the moment, both of us, right? You're wearing pants, me as well.
Well, I have an answer. He wears very much his trousers, and I like it.
But let me tell you what I really liked about most people in those interviews is that most people seem to have a sense of humor about it. And I think that's very important.
Yes.
If you have someone in the relationship who is more decisive and who's good at making decisions, and you're happy with that, then it's okay. And actually, someone there said something really interesting, that young couple, she said, I don't know about me being the boss, but usually by the end of the conversation, usually he agrees with me, right? I think that's great.
But you know something, it sounds like a terrible thing, but it's quite healthy in a way to not be called, being called bossy, but in a way, when the couple is mature and you really became one after a while that you've been married, you kind of recognize, it's like what you said, oh, you know, he's better at organizing and better at this. So we just let it happen, and we're okay with it.
That's right. So I think in our relationships, some things that she's really good at, I let her be the boss. I have no problem with that. Why would I not let her do that?
Especially the kitchen, right?
I'd be a fool. Yeah, and other things, not just that, please. And vice versa. Now, a little earlier, our new correspondent Jenny caught up with Relate counselor Arabella Russell to give us a few tips on what is the best way to deal with a bossy partner. Here's what she had to say.
Thanks, James and Helena. So today we are joined by Relate counsellor Arabella Russell. Arabella, how are you via Skype?
Very well, thank you. Well, indeed. Good
Thanks.
afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. So tell us your top tips on how to deal with bossy partners.
Well, I think the first thing to do is to actually talk to your partner about it. And when I say talk, I don't mean just sit down and say, you're really bossy and that really annoys me, because the minute you tell somebody, accuse somebody of something, they're going to get defensive. So it's not going to be a very useful conversation. The best thing to do is to start a conversation something like, I feel like this when you do that because, and immediately it takes the blame out of it. Because if you tell someone they're bossy, they're not going to say, do you know what, you're right, I need to do something about it. They're immediately going to fly on the defensive. So if you're actually able to say, look, when you talk, you know, I feel like this when you talk to me like that, immediately defenses get lowered, people are more receptive to it, and possibly then you can have a conversation about it.
That's great. And moving on to your next tip for us?
I mean, I think the thing is what the point about bossiness is that it puts us in the position, I think, of feeling like a child. If we have a partner who's bossy and tells us what to do all the time, it's not going to bring out the adult in us. And actually, you know, the best relationships are better when they're adult to adult rather than parent to child. And I think if we are bossy with our partner, or we feel we're being bossed about, we've got a strict parent on one side, and of course, if you're spoken to like that, you then become the child, and the slightly rebellious child. So it's kind of important to think about that dynamic, to think, well, this is how I'm feeling in this, and it doesn't feel like a good way of having a relationship. So I think it's important to talk about. I also think that it's important to try to understand, why is your partner, or why is your partner needing to be bossy as you see it, or why are you bossy? Is it something about not being able to get your voice heard, not being able to get expressed? Is it because you find it really difficult to get your partner to do stuff? And so actually you don't think you're being bossy, you just think you're asking more than once. I think a conversation there about what being bossy means is really important. Because in some relationships, it's fine. You've got one partner who's more bossy than the other, it's not a problem. But when it feels there's an imbalance and somebody ends up feeling like they're always being told what to do, that's when resentment builds. And the real issue about not talking about it is you might stomach it for a while if you're being bossed about and think, I'm going to deal with it, I'm just going to be quiet about it, I'm not going to say anything. And then after a few days, a few months, or even in some cases a few years, you're going to go, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be bossed about like this. So it's always better to try to, to understand it, and then to be able to talk about it.
That's great. And you mentioned earlier, what if you're the bossy one? What advice would you give for those people?
I mean, I think probably if you are the bossy one, the minute you're told you're being bossy is not the moment that you're going to react well, because it probably isn't the first time, if that makes sense. You know, maybe as a friend, as a child, you've been told through your life you're bossy, and then those awful words hit you from your partner and you think, here we go again. And I think it's in those moments to really think about, why do I need to be bossy? Why do I find it so hard to be able to talk about what I want, or to get my partner to do something? Why does it always have to turn into this battle? And I think those are the moments when it's important to sort of ask yourself, why is it unlike this? Is it learned behaviour? I mean, was that the way it happened between your own parents or between your siblings? There was always somebody bossing the other about. You know, as I said earlier, in some relationships that works, but it might not work in your relationship because actually your partner doesn't respond well.
Yeah, and actually, let's talk about the word bossy. What defines bossy for us here?
And I think that's a really good question. You know, what does being bossy mean?
Yeah.
And if your partner says, you know, I find you really bossy, I think it's really important to say, what do you mean by bossy? It could be that your partner or you don't actually like being asked to do anything. So rather than saying, actually, I'm not really very good at taking direction, or I want it all my own way, it's a lot easier to go, right, you're bossy. And if you weren't bossy, everything would be smooth and perfect. I think sit down and say, you know, what does How does being bossy make one of us feel, and why do you think we are, and what do we understand by it? Because, you know, sometimes it's good for one partner to take the lead. Sometimes that's needed. You know, a good relationship is a real balance between caring for somebody and being cared for, sometimes taking the lead and sometimes letting them take the lead. But it's when that it becomes sort of recurrent behaviour all the time, and it always seems to be one person who's doing the telling. I think that's when you get the imbalance, and that's when you get the arguments. But it is important to say, what does bossy mean? Because it's probably one of those words that means very different things to two different people.
Great. And any other tips you have for our viewers?
I mean, I think it is one classic area, I think, within Relate, where we do see quite a few people who find it really hard to communicate well. And, you know, we're not really taught how to listen, are we, as kids? We're taught how to
That's
talk.
true.
Told it's all fantastic and it's what we should be doing, but we're not taught to listen. And I think often people will come into Relate and want to say, look, we just don't communicate very well. So actually, finding your partner bossy, or finding that the only way you can get anything out of them is to be bossy yourself, that'll be a very reasonable and a very good reason to come to Relate, to say, actually, can you help us here? Why is there always this imbalance?
Yeah. And being a counsellor yourself, have you ever dealt with any extreme cases of that type of situation, of one of the partners being a bossy boss?
I think, we never talk about individual cases ever, but of course part of poor communication is about one person perhaps feeling that they're always being told what to do, feeling that somehow they're not heard, feeling their voice isn't important as their partner's. And when you boil it down, often bossy, one will say, are you finding your partner quite bossy? And be like, yes. And bossy is one of those words, I think, that follow us through our lives. We use it as children, we use it as adults. So I think it's a really important thing to work out in a relationship.
Okay, so final message, what's the last thing you'd like to say?
The last thing I'd like to say is, with anything that you're finding difficult in your relationship, talk about it, but be really careful about how you bring it up, because the minute you accuse somebody of something, they're going to get defensive. But you're going to get the very best out of your partner if you say to them, I feel like this, when you say things like that, because, I feel like this when you are always telling me what to do, because it means I feel that I'm not being heard and I'm not important. The minute you say that, I can feel the shoulders will lower, the defensive walls will go down, and possibly they'll be able to hear you. And I would say that if you can, it's very good to be able to compliment your partner, and it's hard for all of us to be told that we're not being fantastic, that actually, we're being a bit bossy or whatever. But it's really important to listen to those things. How does our partner experience us, and how do we experience them? And that's a really important conversation to have.
Well, thank you so much, Arabella, for your time. And obviously this show is all about communicating, so that's great. Thank you very much, and hopefully see you next time. Back to you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Jenny and Arabella. And you see that, actually, that's the whole motto of our program.
Right.
It's learning to communicate. If you feel that one is more bossy than the other, it may just be a case of taking that with a pinch of salt, or trying to understand where the person's coming from. Sometimes there's something that just needs to be discussed. Mm-hmm. But it can be even something positive for the relationship.
Yeah, indeed.
Now, after the break, we're going to be talking a little bit more about this in depth. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back, and you'll see what Eric and Priscilla were up to in this week's Trip for Two.
Did you know that we hold weekly seminars every Saturday at 7 p.m. and admission is completely free? Take a look at this.
Get in touch, questions at lovetalkshow.tv, and come and join us.
Bye.
Welcome back. We want to thank all our guests for being on the show today. And right now we're going to go to the Crystal Fairy Company with Vicky Lord for some great tips on bridal hair.
Hi, welcome to Love Brides with me, Vicky Lord. the UK's best bridal hairstylist and Balmain's bridal hair expert. I'm here today at the Crystal Fairy Company in Birchington to assist my lovely bride-to-be Katie in choosing the perfect hairstyle for the perfect wedding dress. Hi Katie, how are you today?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you very much.
Fabulous. And tell me, how did you meet your hubby-to-be?
I met Steve, my fiancé, through my sister and brother-in-law at the time. We used to go out, have a good time on Maidstone on a Friday night. One thing led to another, 2 children and a house later, we finally proposed.
Fantastic, fabulous.
Yeah.
Congratulations on your wedding.
Thank
You've got
you.
the most important job now of choosing your gown.
Yep.
So have you tried dresses on before?
1 or 2, but nothing's caught my eye yet.
Nothing's caught your eye. So here at the Crystal Fairy Company, what we like our brides to do is to let them loose on our collection.
That's beautiful, but I don't know about the colour of that one. That one's beautiful. That is very, very elegant. I like the beading on the back of that. Very Audrey Hepburn.
What a beautiful dress. You look like a princess.
Yeah. I feel like one.
Fantastic. And this neckline is a beautiful sweetheart neckline. So looking at your face shape, you've got a lovely square face shape through there. But when you wear a strapless dress like this, you probably feel quite naked through the shoulder area. Do you feel naked?
I do feel a bit naked.
Okay, so I think having your hair down would be the perfect hairstyle for this dress. But because your hair is a little bit shorter, I think by adding some extra hair, some clip-in extensions through your hair, would just give you a bit more length and make you feel more comfortable, make you feel like you've got some hair over your shoulders.
That sounds nice.
You can see what a difference by adding some clip-in extensions can make to your hair. It just gives you that extra length that you need. And you can see automatically that it will elongate your neckline, enhance your cheekbones, and just give you a little bit of height here would be amazing there. And then that will suit this neckline really well.
Makes it feel very glamorous.
Something like that.
It really is another beautiful dress. It feels completely different and I do love it. It's a big contrast to the other dress. I almost feel like there's too much going on up here now.
Yeah, it's a very high neckline. It's a boat neckline. I think your hair definitely needs to go all the way up to elongate your neckline and take the hair completely off your face like so. That would just look amazing.
Oh yeah, I think that's beautiful. I think we might have found the one.
Now this looks phenomenal.
It feels amazing.
Oh wow, that looks absolutely stunning on you. How do you feel?
I think we found the one, it's fabulous.
Yeah, I think so
Love
too.
it.
This is an illusion neckline. So again, I think we need an updo with this hairstyle. Because if you've got it down, it's just going to cover all the beautiful detail.
Yeah, sure.
By lifting it up and keeping it quite slick at the sides, that would really elongate your neckline and really enhance your cheekbones. You would definitely need a bit of height through here. This is the kind of hairstyle that I'm thinking would look really, really cool with your dress.
I have my eye on that, it's fantastic, yeah.
Well, it's quite edgy as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's definitely a showstopper. With the sides of the mohawk, you can add maybe some lace from the dress, would look really pretty as well. So the whole thing would work really well together. We hope this will inspire a few of you brides-to-be with some more ideas for your own wedding day. That's all for now. Back to James and Helena in the studio.
Thank you so much, Vicky Lord, as usual, with amazing tips for brides to make their day really special.
Now, let's get stuck in with the actual advice for today's program, because that's what the program's about. Now, one of the things we learned here today is that sometimes being bossy is a matter of perception. Just because you think someone is bossy, it may not always be the case. There are times where feeling someone is, pushy or bossy with you may be revealing deeper issues that you never dealt with.
But for you who have a partner who really likes to take the lead, whether you like it or not, here are a few important things to remember. Talking about things is always the best policy. After all, this is the motto of our program, time to communicate.
It's also very important to let your partner know how his or her behavior makes you feel, and develop a strategy to ensure that this habit will subside. Think about it as a project strategy. Talk about what steps you will both take to ensure you will both be on the same page.
Something else that is extremely important is patience. If your partner vowed to change, then give them time to do so and be supportive. Don't go back, don't come back a week later saying, or you're still the same. It takes time to change habits that have been ingrained in us. Be ready to motivate each other for a few months and eventually things will start changing.
I think there's a song, right, that goes, just a little patience.
Yeah, you
By
just
the way,
love your
if you
songs,
want to
don't
give me a record deal to get in touch, I don't think there's any chance of that happening, but it's worth a shot, right? And the final thing is to remember that being bossy can sometimes be turned into something really positive. And the final thing to remember is that sometimes being bossy can actually be turned into a positive thing. People who have this trait are usually also very determined and know exactly what they want. You always need someone like this in a relationship, right? So learn to harness this in your partner and develop it to an advantage in the relationship.
Indeed. We hope this advice was helpful to you, but let's see what Eric and Priscilla got up to in this week's Trip for Two.
Non più tra i farfalloni amoroso, notte e giorno d'intorno girano, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto a toncino d'amor, delle belle turbando al riposo.
Hello Love Talk, I'm Priscilla.
I'm Eric.
And we're back with the Trip for Two. And today we are in this beautiful establishment called Locale Restaurant. By my side I have Matt with me, he's the manager and he's going to explain to you at home a little bit more about this wonderful place. Matt, so tell me a little bit about the restaurant, you know, its story, the location.
Locally, we have 3 restaurants. We have ourselves here, which is very close to the South Bank. We have Blackheath and the branch in Fulham as well. We also have a craft ale pub in East Dulwich, which is something a bit different to what we knew that we've been doing. Ourselves here, we are the thoroughbred Italian. You know, you want your pizza, your pasta, it's full on, you know, you're full on carb overload. We do salads as well, which is quite nice. Well, we're very close to the South Bank, so some of London's biggest tourist attractions. We have the London Eye Aquarium, London Dungeon, Shrek, other things. And I think it's quite good where we are because you have the beaten track, which is very busy over there, and people are like, it's a bit busy. Come around this side, they come across us. You know, big open windows, big open bar, which is great. You know, open plan kitchen, so you can see your food being cut, whether you're in the bar or in the restaurant itself. Our cocktail staff put on a bit of a show, mixing the cocktails and everything.
Matt, as you can see, we are here on a date.
Yes.
So if couples come here, what is, you know, that you get the couples can do here? What do you think is nice?
I think it's quite nice, you know, when couples first come, is the bar. You can come in, you can even sit down at a table in the window, at the bar itself, and then when you're finished, we then take you through to the restaurant. We have some tables in the window, so you can look at the lovely county hall building. You know, if you want to sort of be in the middle of it all, you can, or you can at a quieter table. We sort of cater for everyone, really.
Well, Matt, thank you very much for having us.
Are you ready for your table?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Let's go.
Follow me.
Well, over our lunch today, we're gonna be asking each other some questions so that you who are married, dating, or maybe are starting a relationship, we may give you some tips how can you start a conversation when you go out.
Yes, and this is quality time together, so why not get to learn a little bit more about each other? And, as I am now with my date, let's start asking some questions.
Steak medium for yourself.
Thank you.
And the lamb rump medium rare. Thank you. Get you anything else?
That's it for now.
Enjoy.
Thank you very much. Okay, so let me start with something very easy. So, where is your favorite place in the whole world? For example, my favorite place would be somewhere calm, where the weather is nice and warm and, you know, near water.
Totally different.
I know, but I wanted to hear.
Very busy places.
Like city?
Yes. Where there are a lot of people and noise. What did you want to be when you were a child? What did you want to be in the future when you were a child?
Many things, but I think the main one was that I wanted to be a lawyer.
Why?
Now I don't even know why, but you know when you're a child you have so many
But you like
dreams.
studying?
I actually like studying.
Maybe you should be.
If you could, what kind of people would you choose to surround yourself with?
I don't like people with a long face.
But what would be the...
So, people that would really make me comfortable to be next to them. Not anybody who with a long face, somebody that would feel uncomfortable to talk about something or maybe something like that. What about you?
The ones that I choose to be around me are people with, good character. Of course, no one is perfect, but I prefer to be around people who are honest, who tell the truth.
What do you hate the most in the process of dating, the beginning of it?
The thing that I hate the most is actually the nicest thing, because the thing that I hate the most is, when we are getting to know each other, there's a little bit of that awkwardness there, but in the same time,
that's what makes
the things
nice.
exciting to get to know each other.
Exactly.
So I have a little bit of mixed feelings about that one.
I agree.
Yes?
No, that's it.
Here we go, guys. A nice piece of tiramisu for sharing.
Thank you.
There you go. Enjoy.
Thank you, Matt. Well, we had a wonderful time here together today, right, Priscilla?
Yes.
Okay, now let's go for the dessert. Back to the studios.
And that was Eric and Priscilla savoring this wonderful, it looks really nice, at local restaurant, a really nice meal.
And today they've put the competition on hold, but they will be back to compete next week because the guys need to pull back some points.
Let's see.
Even though relationships are not really about competing, right? You're a team. So
it's just a game.
That's just something we do here in the program. Now, if you've been affected by anything that was discussed here in today's program, or if you'd like to get in touch with us, then please do.
Yeah, please email the show on questions@lovetalkshow.tv.
Remember, you can also find us on Facebook or Twitter. And it's been a pleasure to be here with you. Until next time, bye-bye.
Most important day, a day that every woman dreams of. I mean, most women dream of their wedding day, and I think this is really, really nice, and I think we should do this again.
Think about it like a project strategy. Talk about what...
We hope this advice has helped you, but let's see what Eric and Priscilla got up to in this week's Trip for Two. Oh, I was looking at the wrong camera. Couldn't believe it. We hope this advice was helpful to you, but now let's see what... Not Patricia. God, no.
It's been a pleasure to be here with you. We hope that you enjoyed today's program. And if you have any questions regarding any of today's topics, do get in touch. Our email address is questions@lovetalkshow.tv or get in touch via our Facebook page.
Yeah, remember you can also find us... Oh my goodness. You said everything, all the points in one. Also, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, remember that you can also write to us, okay? And also you can find us on Facebook, Twitter. So until next time.
That was very... You can get to us on Twitter. Until next time.
Tiago, why don't you stick with your lines and I stick with mine, and then we don't have any problems.
Second nature, sorry.
Sério, look, okay, so well organized.
Please forgive me. I don't know what I do.
Thanks, James and Helena. On this week's 1 Minute Bulletin, we're putting Thanks, James and Helena. On this week's 1 Minute Bulletin, we're putting the spotlight on lottery winners Adrian. One more time.
Again, more sort of Italian, but has a few little variations on the menu and stuff.
No, that is it, no problem. You're doing well.
I hope you guys have the opportunity to go and do the same, because, it's the Oh, why?
Bye-bye.
We are going to synchronize like this. Remember, not doing this anymore. We're gonna come like this together.
And that's all for today's Love Talk show. Be sure to tune in next week to learn more on how to love intelligently.